Hello, everyone. As you all know, I am Dr. Mishra. I am the grad coordinator for the Industrial Organizational Psychology program and the General Master's program. And today we are going to talk a little bit about the internship requirement for the master's program in IO psychology. So the goal is to give you an overview of what are the requirements, when you should start looking for internships, when typically students do the internship during the program, and then we'll have some time to, for questions, if you have any questions about the requirements. And then I have Amanda Baker with me, who's the Assistant Director of the Career Development Center. And she is going to be talking a little bit about some tips and tricks to be able to identify internship opportunities so you are able to complete the requirements of the program. Does that sound good? All right. So I have a short presentation, basically a few slides that kind of talk about the overview, but I'm also going to share the internship syllabus with you so that you have that handy. So just give me 1 minute. All right, so I'm going to talk about what are the requirements of the program, and then in the chat, let me just actually do it right now. I'm going to upload the syllabus. And I just sent it to you guys. This is from the fall semester. But it remains the same with depending upon wherever, you are taking it in the fall, in the spring, or you are taking it in the summer. The syllabus remains the same. So let's talk a little bit about the internship course itself. So basically, the Master of Science in Industrial Organizational Psychology program here at Westchester requires all of the students to complete an internship. That could be a placement in a business setting, an industrial setting, higher education setting, or government setting. The course is designed to expose the students to a variety of work experiences in the workplace. So a lot of our students, it depends on going from talent management to recruitment. Some of the students have done training and development opportunities. Some students have worked in leadership. Some students have worked in organizational development initiatives. So it basically depends on what area of IO you are interested in and in which area you want to develop your expertise in. You can think of the internship as a transition point from your academic world to the real world in terms of your IO training. So the internship actually allows you to apply some of the principles and concepts that you have learned in the program to an actual work situation. So graduate students who are eligible, they are in our program, are eligible for their internship after they have completed their first year in the graduate program, right? So the first year of graduate coursework is completed, and then you can complete your internships. If you receive an internship offer before you complete your first year, you can still do it, but it has to be in consultation and approval from the graduate coordinator. So the courses that typically students will have completed before they do the internship include industrial psychology, which is Psych 560, organizational psychology, which is Psych 562, and 2 courses in statistics, which is your stats sequence, 601 in the fall semester and 602 in the spring semester. Courses, and also you must have taken some electives in the IO field, including either assessment or training or workplace stress. So once you've completed these requirements, you have the basic foundations of the field of IO, and then you can start working, trying to find internship opportunities. So typically students will complete their internship in the summer of their first year. However, depending upon when you receive an internship offer, it may change from summer to the fall semester. So that would be another option where, you take a course in the summer if you don't find an internship, but then you complete your internship in the fall semester. So what are the requirements? So basically, interns are expected to devote a minimum of 300 hours total to the host site for a minimum of 12 weeks with a minimum 20 hours per week commitment. These minimums are in place so that you are interacting with the organization frequently enough and long enough to see some results of your work. To accumulate 300 hours, you will need to exceed at least one of the 12-week, 20 hours per week minimum. And note that not all of your time needs to be spent on the internship site. So some of our internships have been remote in the past, where the students work remotely for a given organization. So depending upon the nature of work, depending upon the organization, the sort of like the requirements of internship for a particular organization change from organization to organization. Interns are expected to be assigned to and carry out professional level work. Clerical duties are appropriate only to the extent that other professionals engage in similar activities. So your job should be directly related to the field of IO psychology, and the work that you are carrying out should be able to be directly related to the content that you are covering in your courses. Interns are expected to participate in full range of professional activities available at the organization, including staff meetings, client meetings, etc. But again, it would depend on what specifically is your position and what are the policies of the organization. Interns are expected to be assigned to projects for which they have substantial responsibility. And the assignments that typically our students have conducted in the past include like talent assessment, employee recruitment, development of a training manual, design of a program to evaluate training, study of a test validation procedure, analysis of a set of jobs, design of performance feedback systems, or analysis of selection practices, coaching or training leaders, and so on and so forth. So basically, the work that you do as a part of your internship should be related to some aspect that you are covering within the field of IO psychology. So what are you expected to do in terms of like keeping a record of your internship? So you are expected to maintain a time or activity log, which serves as feedback to both your site supervisor and your campus supervisor. So your campus supervisor is the graduate coordinator, which would be typically me for this year. And then your site supervisor would be your internship supervisor. The site supervisors, they actually provide you with written evaluative comments regarding your performance, and those are submitted to the graduate coordinator every 2 weeks after you start your internship. So what this looks like is, we share. So this is what, your internship evaluation form. We call this a bi-weekly internship evaluation form, and this is what it looks like. You will have your information, the supervisor information, the projects that you completed in the 2-week period, the timeline, and then these are the dimensions on which you are rated by your supervisor. And this performance evaluation is sent directly to the faculty member. So you will complete the first part of this form and submit it to your supervisor, and then they will complete the bottom part of this form and email it directly to me. In addition to this, your supervisor will complete one final evaluation, and this is same across all students, irrespective of where you are doing your internship. So basically, this is a internship supervisor final evaluation, and this is submitted at the end of your internship. So once you complete your 12-week duration or your 300-hour duration, this form needs to be completed and submitted by your supervisor. So again, those two things, like written evaluative comments regarding interns' performance every 2 weeks, and then one final internship evaluation form. Compensation, interns are expected to receive compensation that is commensurate with their contribution they make to the host site, whereas compensation at the same rate as full-time employee is not always possible. Some acknowledgement of benefit to the host site is reasonable. The intern and site supervisor will negotiate the exact compensation arrangement. It may be a good idea to reach out to the second-year students who have already completed their internships to get more information about the negotiation process, what to expect in internship interviews, and also, what kind of compensation is expected at this level. The last thing that you need to submit is your internship overview paper upon completion of your internship duration. So the purpose of this paper is for you to provide a description of the work and projects accomplished at the internship site. It provides you an opportunity to reflect on the benefits of the internship and skills that you believe you acquired while participating in the process. So the questions that need to be addressed in your paper would include: describe the positives and negatives of the internship work, describe one project or assignment that you completed and how it was directly related to your coursework in IO psychology. Describe how this experience will be beneficial for your career goals, and any other relevant comments about the internship that you need to provide. Your final paper should be 4 to 5 double-space pages in length, 11 to 12 inches, 11 to 12 times New Roman font, and 1-inch margins. Please indicate the following on the title page of the report: your name, the program, your internship site name, dates of internship, your site supervisor name, email and phone number, and report completion date. Grades will be based on your supervisor's bi-weekly evaluations that they provide to us, and their summary evaluation and the intern's final overview paper. So basically, those are the main requirements of what you need to complete as a part of this internship. Finding an internship is basically the first step, right? So how do you go about finding internships? So here are some links, and some links are provided in the syllabus also. So you can go to indeed.com. A really good resource is Handshake, which is the WCU Career Development's website, which Amanda is going to talk about more in her presentation. Find Internships is another website. PsyOp JobNet. So Society for Industrial Organizational Psychology has a JobNet website that kind of provides you with opportunities within the field. Sometimes they will post internship opportunities which may be useful for you. I also want to highlight that there is a Westchester University IO LinkedIn group, which is a really good resource, because this group is, for alumni from our program. So current students and alumni from our program are associated with this Westchester University IO LinkedIn group, and it's really useful because it can help you, get in touch with people who might be working in areas that you are interested in. So you can reach out to alumni, ask what they're doing. You may be able to get more information about specific type of work. And a lot of times, I will post a lot of opportunities on this website. So please make sure that if you don't have a LinkedIn profile, create one. And once you've created one, please add yourself, request to be added to the Westchester IO LinkedIn group. Be sure to check your WCU email regularly. We receive, opportunities from our alumni, and a lot of time they require very quick turnaround from you. So please keep an eye out for those opportunities. As soon as you receive them, you can respond to them, let them know that you are interested, and that may lead to an internship opportunity for you. Other suggestions: use your personal network, connect with people on LinkedIn or Facebook. Tell everyone you meet that you are looking for an IO internship. You never know what connections people might have. And also check out our internship page for resources for students. So this has some really useful information about finding IO opportunities in the field. So the last thing before we get to questions is basically what do you do if you find one, right? So let's say you applied for internships and you got one. How do we have you registered into the course? So basically, once you find an internship, you send me the information about your job description, the name of your supervisor, the contact information of your supervisor, and once you get, and basically a description of your job duties and the duration of your internship. So send me an email with all of the details. I will review it and I will approve it, and then we will have you registered in the Psych 630 internship course. So basically this course, depending upon the number of students every semester, we offer it every semester. So if you find one in the spring, you can do it. You just have to get yourself approved for the internship, and we will have you registered in the course, right? So make sure you are sending the information once you get an offer letter to me, and then I will have you registered in the class. And same thing happens for the summer, same thing happens for the fall semester. All right, so I will stop here, but I want to give you an opportunity to ask any questions before I turn it over to Amanda for further tips and tricks on finding internships. Yes, Charlie, what's your question?
Hi, it's Taisha. I wanted to ask specifically if we have a part-time to full-time job where we're working 30, 40 hours a week, but the job does fit the qualifications of like doing IO work and whatnot. Can we like send that in as our internship requirement?
Yeah, so that would be a conversation with me. If you're currently doing a job and you want to use it as your internship, you may be able to do that, but we have to look for, you might have to do a project that is directly IO related for the duration of the internship at your job. So that is a conversation that like I would have to have with you, review the requirements, what project, and if the job is directly related to IO, then we may be able to do that, make that accommodation. But that would be a conversation with the graduate coordinator. Does that answer your question?
Yes, it does. Thank you.
Okay. Megan's question is, does the paper have to be single or double spaced? I think we said double spaced, so 4 to 5 pages double spaced.
Thank you.
Uh, um, I have a question.
Yeah.
So, when we're looking for internships, do we have to tell the site up front that in addition to doing the internship that like they'd also have to do the paperwork associated with it? Like, do we have to tell them that like as we're applying for the internship?
Yeah, so as you apply for the internship and you receive one, you can share the information about, this is a program requirement and we need these biweekly evaluations and a final evaluation from the supervisor. And most of our students have had no problems in the past with having these evaluations. But if you have any, if they have any questions, you can direct them to us.
Okay, thank you.
Any other questions? Yes, Lydia.
So I've heard recently some people talking about government internships, and I was curious if you have experience with that or if any of your students have. I know someone that did a personnel psychology internship with the federal government and
Yeah.
now has a job as a result of that. So I was just curious, like, what that process would look like. Is that different when you're applying for government internships? I guess I would have to look into it more, but I was curious if you knew anything about it.
Yeah, so you might want to look into US Office of Personnel Management. It's called OPM, and
Okay.
that is like very like dedicated to human resources, IO psychology, very informative website. And a lot of these government internships, they might be within the specific like IO related ones. You can find them on USA.job. I think usajobs.com.
Okay.
That's where they're posted. But, typically the requirements are usually the same, but their interview process might be different. They have typically a particular opening date, they have a particular closing date beyond which they don't review applications. So it will be dependent on the type of internship, but you are definitely, if you find one, you should definitely apply.
Okay, thank you.
Any other questions? Okay, a few more minutes and then I can hand it over to Amanda. So if anything comes up, you can also paste it in the chat, and I will make note of those and I can respond to them afterwards if any questions come to your mind. If you don't mind, can you also type in your name into the chat so I can have that as a record for attendance? All right. So if there are no questions, I will then hand it over to Amanda to talk about some tips and tricks for finding internships. And as I said, if any questions come to your mind, please paste them in the chat and then I'll address them in a follow-up email.
Thank you so much. Hi, everyone. My name is Amanda Baker, and I'm an assistant director at the Career Development Center. I think I've met some of you before. I'm going to go ahead and share my screen. Maybe. All right, hopefully you are seeing my slide deck. I'm going to talk about the steps to an internship search. You can, of course, put any questions or comments in the chat, and we will be sure to answer them as I go along. So just as a quick reminder, everything we talk about today, you can get a one-on-one appointment with a career counselor like myself at the Career Development Center for a 30-minute appointment to go over anything that I'm gonna talk about this evening. We do have drop-in hours Monday through Friday from 2 to 4 p.m. Let's see. Lots of resources on our website, including things for graduate students and how to find an internship, lots of ways to connect with alumni and employers. So 5 quick steps to an internship search. Hopefully you're gonna know yourself and network. We're gonna briefly touch on application materials, interviewing, and following up. So why do we make you do an internship? Some of the reasons that you are asked to do an internship is so that you can gain experience in your field, develop the skills of your field, put that theory into practice, actually start trying some of the things that you've been learning in class. You might even find a mentor. You certainly will increase your network. Right? Our goal is that you will build your resume. Many students receive a job offer from their internship. So there's lots of benefits of doing an internship. And if you do try something that you don't like, this is a good thing because it means you won't have to keep doing something that you don't want to do. And you can change your path. You can change your mind. We hope that you will make the most of your internship. It's a good idea to identify expectations with both your faculty supervisor and your site supervisor at the beginning. It's a good idea to meet regularly with your supervisor so that you can make a plan for your project or your goals and meet those goals. Take initiative, ask questions. Supervisors don't always know that you don't know something or that you don't have what you need. So make sure that you're asking questions if you don't have what you need. And while you're at your internship, it's a great idea to network with your colleagues. You know, don't eat lunch alone. Go to lunch with someone, go to coffee with someone. There's a lot of different ways to learn about the people you work with and the organization that you're working for. So the first step in finding an internship, surprise, surprise, is knowing yourself. And I think it's understanding what your career goals are, why you are interested in finding an internship. Of course, you're required to, but also what are your strengths and weaknesses? What are your values, your skills, your abilities? What are your career interests? What motivates you? We want you to try to find the right fit internship for you so that you can accomplish something. You might have geographic limitations or preferences. Of course, those matter. You might have salary considerations. For internships, usually they are paid, but not always. If that matters to you, make sure you find something that is paid. So it's a really good idea to do some company research, find out what is out there. What are your options? When you look at an organization, you want to look at what is the industry that they are in? What is their mission statement? Every company has a mission statement. They publish their values, their goals. They talk about their culture. You can find the thing that fits right for you. Lots of companies talk about diversity, equity, and inclusion. They talk about community involvement or volunteering. Of course, you can also read about whatever product or service the company offers, their history, have they been in the news, and where are their locations. So it's a good idea to understand this information before you start networking, before you start applying, before you start writing cover letters, and before you interview, because they will ask you on the interview why you want to work for them. And a key part of your cover letter should be why you want to work for them. So these are the pieces of information that help you answer those questions at a career fair, in a cover letter, or on an interview. So a proactive job search is all about networking, and your professor sort of alluded to this, right? We want to make sure we tell everyone we know that we're looking for an IO psychology internship. There are lots of great places to network at conferences, professional organizations, career fairs. My office does a lot of meetups. You can also conduct informational interviews to talk to your network. Everyone you know is a potential member of your network. I want to point out that the job and internship fair is this Wednesday, September 25th from 12 noon to 4 p.m. in the Student Recreation Center. We have 150 employers that are going to be there. Lots and lots of them are interested not only in your major, but also in graduate students. So if you are thinking about an internship for next summer or even next spring, I encourage you to apply to attend, because many of the companies that will be at this event are already looking for their summer interns and hiring now for their summer interns. Just a few tips about the career fair. You can check the employer list in Handshake to make sure it is worth your time to go, and maybe come up with your top 10 or so list of companies that you want to talk to. You can do a little bit of research in advance. You can get your elevator pitch together, make sure you dress for an interview, bring copies of your resume, and be prepared to take notes. You want to be able to follow up with the companies that you talk to make sure that you are, prepared for what they are doing, and able to apply for any positions that they have available. So let's talk a little bit about networking. Again, everyone you know is in your network. You can start with your friends and your family. You can start with your teachers, your professors, your mentors, your supervisors. Think about folks you know from professional organizations. Westchester alumni are already part of your network. Or you can go to career fairs like the one we're having on Wednesday. You can connect with Westchester University students and alumni on LinkedIn. If you already have a profile, you can search for us at the Westchester University Twardarski Career Development Center. If you want to follow my office, we do post a lot of stuff about all of our upcoming events and lots of articles and tips that we think are pertinent to our students and our young alumni. But you can also connect with Golden Rams, our alumni. When you look at Westchester University, you can look at the list of alumni and find folks who shared your major or work for a company that you're interested in, or maybe have the type of job that you are looking for, and reach out to them to network. If LinkedIn seems a little too overwhelming, or you're just not as interested in getting on LinkedIn, try Ramnation. Ramnation is only for Westchester University students and alumni. Every alum that's on here specifically wants to work with and mentor our students. So it's a great idea to connect with alumni this way, because you can, again, find folks that shared your major, or maybe share an activity that you belong to, or live in the right geographic location, or work in the right industry, and get some flash mentoring that way. It might seem less intimidating than a site like LinkedIn. This QR code will take you straight there. So let's talk a little bit about your elevator pitch. The idea behind an elevator pitch is, the reason we call it that is, if you got on the elevator in a tall building with the person who had the job of your dreams, what could you say to them before those elevator doors open to get a meeting with them, right? To move that relationship forward. So that's why we call it an elevator pitch. And there's a really good example of this in a very, very old movie from the 80s called Working Girl. She jumps on the elevator with the president of the company, and by the time that those elevator doors open, she has convinced him to give her a chance. So you can use an elevator pitch at a career fair to introduce yourself to an alum or an employer. You can use it in a cover letter to make sure you are saying the most important things about yourself. You can also use it in a networking meeting or an informational interview to introduce yourself to the person you're going to be talking to or interviewing. So it might look something like this. Hello, my name is Amanda Baker. I'm a first-year industrial organizational psychology master's student at Westchester University. I am interested in a career in analytics and human resources. And then pick the thing, what is the most important thing? Have you been involved in some kind of activity or club or internship? What kind of skills have you developed either in or outside the classroom? Have you had jobs related to this field? And how can you tell a quick story about that? And then maybe end on a question. If you're talking to a human, end on a question. If it's in a letter or something like that, of course, I wouldn't do that. But it's a good way to introduce yourself and then kind of get a sense of what that person, get that person talking to you, and really start a good conversation. So this is kind of a nice formula for how to introduce yourself. And if you pay attention, every time I introduce myself at the beginning of a talk, I pretty much cover the high points, right, of myself and my career, where I work, what I'm doing, why I'm here, why you should even listen to a word that I say. So hopefully you will find that useful. And you're welcome to take a picture of this if you haven't already, so that you have that kind of framework for when you're going forward. I recommend doing informational interviews. So if you are going to be networking and talking to folks, an informational interview is just a meeting with a person. It's very low stress. It's a way to gather information about a company or an industry. It really, really gives you the competitive edge in interviewing. It'll help you develop your self-confidence. If you ask someone for a meeting, they're pretty likely to say yes. If you ask someone for a job, they're pretty likely to say no, right? If I asked you right now, how many of you could hire me? I have 20 years of experience as a career counselor. How many of you could hire me right now for a job? Probably none of you. But I bet you could tell me what it's like to be a graduate student at Westchester University. Maybe you could tell me what the apartment situation is like near campus. Maybe you could even tell me where the best pizza in town is, right? There are definitely things that you could tell me that aren't, do you have a job for me? And when you take the time to talk to someone, to ask them questions, to listen to their stories, the magic of this is that they then feel really good about you and they think you're amazing, even though they're the one that's been doing all the talking. And I promise you, I have seen this happen over and over and over again, where you go in and ask some questions, the person gives you some information, and suddenly they think you're awesome. And they're much more likely to refer you to their colleagues and their professional acquaintances, right? And others at their company or others in their field. Or if they hear of a job opening, they're much more likely to think of you first and forward it to you, because you have taken the time to listen to them. Some questions to ask your network. You can ask all kinds of things. You can ask all kinds of things of your network. You can ask them about their work, about trends at their industry or in their company. Maybe their company has an interesting mission statement or value statement. Well, how does that play out in the real day-to-day work? Is there something they wish they had done differently in their career? Maybe they have advice for someone who's a student like you. Or I wouldn't ask super personal questions, but you certainly can ask them like what's on their reading list or what professional organizations they recommend. Never ever ask someone about their salary, but you certainly can ask, how their career impacts their lifestyle or their flexibility or their leisure time or their material needs. Just never directly ask someone their salary. That's inappropriate. You might ask them how you can help them where you might not be in a position to do that yet. Someday you will be. And they might think of you when they have a question or they have a concern. Always, always, always ask your network who else they recommend you talk to. Because if you do this well and you do this right, you are eventually sitting in front of the person who says, I have a job for you, or I want to hire someone like you, or we have a job that's not even posted yet. The statistics from my professional organization are that 80% of jobs are never even posted, because this is how people are getting jobs, through their network, through who they know, through talking to the right people. And so that's why we talk about it. And hopefully this will help you get there as well. Oops. Once you are ready to actually submit an application for a job, you're always going to need a resume or a curriculum vitae. I'm not really going into the details of those today, but there's lots of great information on our website. You might need something like a cover letter or a thank you note. In some cases, sometimes for internships, you might need a transcript. You might need to provide references. In more artistic and creative fields, you often have to provide a portfolio. You might have to provide a writing sample. And if you're applying for something that's more like a program or a scholarship, you might even need a personal statement. The Career Development Center can help you polish your application materials and refine them and target them at the kind of position you are going for now, to make sure that you are ready for your internship. The primary thing that you all need to do is add your current degree to your resume. I see a lot of first-year graduate students who have not added their degree yet. You really, really need to do that. So the reactive job search, which is probably the thing you thought I was going to spend most of my time talking about, is where you go online and you find an open job and you apply for it. That's the reactive job search. So 15% of jobs are filled this way, right? 15 to 20% of jobs are filled this way. Most jobs are filled doing that networking thing that I've spent the last 20 minutes talking about. So above the line, you'll see the typical job search sites, LinkedIn, Indeed are great sites. ZipRecruiter is a great site. If you're interested in higher ed, check out Higher Ed Jobs. That's a .com. If you're interested in nonprofit organizations, check out idealist.org. And USA Jobs is a .gov. It is usajobs.gov is a great place to look for internships with any aspect of the federal government. One word of caution, some entry-level positions, bachelor's degree required entry-level positions with the federal government are called internships. So just be careful, read the very long job description carefully to make sure you are applying for something that actually counts towards what you're trying to do with your internship for your degree. The Muse does have some job postings, but I like them for all of their content. They have a ton of great information on how to write resumes and cover letters, how to write networking, emails, thank you notes, cover letters, lots of great stuff on job searching. Their articles are short, they're quick to read, and they have tons and tons of samples. So if they're talking about something like, how to do a summary statement on their resume, they're going to give you 5 examples of how to do that. So I really, really like the Muse. Also check out your professional organizations. These are the ones I could find sort of related to the field of industrial organizational psychology. Of course, PsyOp has a job search. And then there's a few others that are sort of related. Human Factors and Ergonomics Society came up. Academy of Management came up. Society of Psychologists and Leadership came up. The American Psychological Association is apa.org, and they do have like a subsection. They have a subsection for career, but they also have a subsection for industrial organizational psychology. And SHRM is your classic Society for Human Resource Management. If you're more interested in the human resources side of industrial organizational psychology, that's a great place to look as well. Of course, there's many more job sites than this, but these are the ones I thought would be good places to start for where you're at looking for an internship. Handshake is a job search site that we have available to you here at Westchester University. The QR code will take you to your app store where you can download the app. You can search for both jobs and internships on Handshake. You can see the list of companies that is coming to things like our career fair happening on Wednesday. You can schedule appointments with a career counselor like myself if you want to talk through your unique situation or get something like a resume reviewed or practice your interview skills or something like that. You can also network with all of the other 18 million students on this platform at all 1,400 other universities that use the platform. So it's more than just a job search site, although primarily it is set up as a job search site. If you are an international student, I highly recommend Interstride. You may need to use your CPT or OPT for an internship if it is off campus. And they do have, you can look for that, by the way, on Handshake. You can also look for that through Interstride. And both Handshake and Interstride have a list of companies that are willing to sponsor the H-1B visa if that applies to you. So let's talk a little bit about interviews. So now you've networked, now you've applied for a position, you know what you want, and now you've gotten an interview. So again, it starts with knowing yourself, it starts with doing some company research, and it starts with having your elevator pitch prepared. Your elevator pitch is a great answer to the question, tell me about yourself. You might not start with, hi, my name is, but pretty much everything else you'd say in an elevator pitch, you can say in answer to the question, tell me about yourself, which is almost always the first question of every single interview. And I think you want to be prepared for that. In my 20 years of experience doing mock interviews, I find that most people calm down by about the third or fourth question in a mock interview. So if you can get through what we know is going to be the first question, you're going to calm down and you're going to do pretty well on your interview. Make sure that you are dressed professionally. That doesn't necessarily mean a suit, although it might, depending on the industry that you are applying in. Make sure you bring copies of your resume, bring a portfolio, bring a list of questions to ask them, and bring anything else they asked you to bring. Bring your attitude. So during the interview, it's really important to be confident. Confidence takes you farther in an interview than just about anything else I could ever tell you. And that means making eye contact. So if you are in person, it is important to look your interviewer in the eye. You will notice that if you are watching my video, most of the time I have been talking, I have been looking into the camera, because if you're looking at my video, it looks like I'm looking at you. So if you are doing any kind of video interview or pre-recorded video interview or some kind of interview over Zoom or Teams or something like that, talk to your camera. Don't talk to the video of the person you're talking to. It's a little bit awkward and it takes some practice, but it will make for a better interview. Make sure you are able to tell your stories. I'm going to touch a little more on that in a moment, and ask lots of questions. I urge you to take a list of questions with you. I find that most people are nervous on an interview, and invariably your interviewer is going to say, what questions do you have? Right? And if you go, no, I'm good, I don't have any questions, you don't look nearly as interested as the person who gets out their list and starts reading their questions. Plus, if you're nervous, you don't have to remember what all your questions are. You can take a list with you. I would suggest having about 10 questions prepared to ask. We have some on our website, but you can also Google questions to ask during an interview. You'll find tons of them. Just pick 10 and ask them. The only thing you really cannot ask on an interview is about the salary and benefits. I know it's the only thing you want to know, particularly if it's when it comes to a full-time job, but I really wouldn't ask that question. That information typically comes with the job offer. So let's talk a little bit about behavioral-based questions. Behavioral-based questions start with a phrase like, tell me about a time, describe a situation, or give me an example. So when you are in an interview, the single best way to prepare is have that answer to tell me about yourself with your elevator pitch, and then have 6 or 7 or 8 stories prepared and frame them either in the STAR technique or the PAR method. So in the STAR technique, situation, task, action, result. Briefly describe the situation that you were in, the task that you had to accomplish, the actions that you specifically took, and don't forget about the result or the outcome of your actions. That's actually the most important part, and a lot of people leave that off or forget about it. If you're talking about a negative situation, tell me about a time that you failed, or tell me about a time that your idea was criticized. Nobody wants to talk about a failure or something that didn't go well. But if the result of your actions during a failure is always going to show your strengths and your abilities, and if they're asking you a negative question like that, it might be to see, how you're going to respond, or what you are really all about. A lot of people don't prepare for a negative question and can get flustered. I think it's a good idea to have stories prepared so that you are prepared for any question they might ask. The PAR method is problem, action, result. What was the problem? What did you do about it? And what was the result or outcome? So again, the idea is to have stories in mind. So we have a list of behavioral-based questions on the Career Development Center website, or you could Google behavioral-based interview questions. You'll find 1,000 of them. Pick 10, come up with 10 stories. That story is going to fit with any number of questions that they might ask you. So if I ask you something like, who's the most frustrating individual you ever worked with, and how did you manage to deal with that person? You might have someone in mind, but don't ever say their name, right? So maybe you talk about the situation is the job that you used to have. Maybe you had to do a project or a task with this person. What was that about? And then what did you do? Did you confront the person? Did you remind the person? Did you maybe go to your supervisor or your professor about the person? It doesn't really matter what you did. It matters the result of your actions. So how did it work out? Did you get along better? Was the person able to help you with the project? Maybe they had something else going on that you were able to help them with, and then they came around. Don't forget about the result of your actions. And then that answer probably fits with a lot of different kinds of questions that they might ask, which is why it's a good idea to have a number of stories prepared. Don't forget to follow up after an interview. I strongly urge you to send a thank you note. Most people do not do this, and it really can make you stand out among other people interviewing. So that can be a handwritten note that you put in the snail mail, like the kind you used to send to grandma for birthday gifts. It could be an email that you send, once you later that day or the next day after the interview. You can use a thank you note in a couple different ways. You can, of course, reiterate your interest in the company and the position, show your enthusiasm. If you forgot something, if you walk out of that interview and you say to yourself, oh my gosh, I totally forgot to tell them the most important thing, put it in your thank you note. Maybe you made a mistake during your interview, put it in your thank you note. There's a lot of ways you can use a thank you note to your advantage to make you look like the best candidate for a job. Whenever we are interviewing for someone in my office, I always give points to someone who takes the time to send a thank you note, because most people don't do it, and it really, really can make you stand out. If you are nervous about interviewing, take the time to practice. We have this wonderful platform called Big Interview that you can use to practice. It's just like a video interview. You record yourself, you watch yourself, no one else has to see it. but you can choose a bank of questions in your industry, right? So you can choose questions kind of around the field you're applying for and practice. They also have hours of video content on all the weird and awkward questions they ask during interviews and how to answer them and why they ask them. They have stuff on writing resumes and cover letters. They even have stuff on salary negotiation when you get there for your full-time job search. This was a very quick down and dirty, you know, how to find a job, how to network. We touched on interviewing a little bit. You can follow my office on Instagram and YouTube and LinkedIn. We are also on RAM Connect, which is the university-wide calendar. And in all of these places, you can find all about our programs and events and services to students. I'm gonna stop sharing my video and see if there are any questions, comments, concerns. Feel free to put questions in the chat. We are recording this session, so it will be available to you within about a week or so on the IO website. I am happy to answer any questions, comments, concerns, criticisms.
I had a quick question about preparing for the job and internship fair on Wednesday.
Sure.
Specifically for us being in IO, where maybe the company's industry and the newsworthy things that they're doing might not be as relevant because we'd be more behind the scenes working with employees. How do you recommend we research companies that we want to work with that aren't IO specific, but we know they might have something that we won't be able to find as easily just knowing what the company does?
So I still think you want to know what the company does, but when you are looking at a company's About Us page, it is typically the human resources folks that design those About Us pages. So if you're reading about their mission, their values, their goals, their history, it's likely either their marketing department or their human resources department that has worked to put that information out there. So, for example, if a company has employee groups, that's a good way to know if a company is open to diversity. If a company does volunteering in their community, that's a good way to know that a company is, you know, interested in promoting their community, right? Interested in helping their community, giving back to their community. So there's ways like that that you can find out what an organization is about and what they stand for. You may not be able to find out what an industrial organizational psychologist does at this company, but you want to know a little bit about what the company does, because when they say, why do you want to work for us? You have to have some kind of answer, and it really should be based on the mission and values of the organization, if nothing else. I hope that answers your question.
It does, thank you.
Other questions? Thank you, Luke. Am I doing this good of a job, or do you just really not have any questions? Or have I just overwhelmed you with too much information?
So not like a question, but more of a comment-ish.
Yeah.
But when I would go to the job fair, or like when I go to the job fair on Wednesday, I mean, like, would it be okay if, like, just for that job fair, like, I don't have like like a bunch of like cover letters for like every single company that I
Oh,
would
you
go?
shouldn't have cover letters at all for a career fair. You only need copies of your resume. You don't need cover letters at all. I actually had a student today ask me why she needed headshots for the career fair. No, you only need to bring copies of your resume, because I know in this day and age, employers are still going to ask you for a paper copy of your resume.
Okay.
We do have a cool feature. Every employer will have a little QR code at their table. So you can check in at the table of an employer you talk to, and Handshake will send you an email the next day of all the companies that you spoke to. So if you want to follow up with them, you will automatically have a list. But yeah, do not bring cover letters to the career fair. And I don't think you need to do thorough research. You just shouldn't walk up to a company and say, "Hi, what do you do?" I mean, they'd like you to have some knowledge of who they are.
Hi, Amanda. This is Luke Zinzer. And maybe you mentioned this during the presentation, I missed it, but should we prepare if we have any special accommodations that we need to request as for potential employment? Would we prepare that beforehand or
Great
let the
question.
company engage in that dialogue?
So if you have any kind of federally recognized disability or status, you do not need to disclose that during an interview. If you require reasonable accommodations in order to do whatever job you are applying for, that is something you can talk to your supervisor about after you are given the offer, but perhaps before you accept the offer. So it might depend on what your personal situation is, but for example, if you have a disability, you do not need to disclose that during an interview, but you may wish to disclose the reasonable accommodation you need after you get an offer, but before you accept an offer. Does that make sense?
Yep, that makes perfect sense. Thank you.
Mm-hmm.
Hi. I have another comment slash question-ish.
Sure.
You did mention before that that even at the career and internship fair that we should have like some knowledge of the company. The only reason why I feel like I would ask what they do or what they might be looking for is because even if we go on the Handshake website and and we see like what they may be hiring, it still might not it might not paint like a complete picture of like
Correct.
I'm just not sure if it's gonna like like tell or say like everything that they're like looking for, and with there being like over like 100
Correct.
companies there, um like I would be like nervous if I had to like know like many like
You don't.
different
I would say
companies.
top 10. So I'm gonna share my screen and show you how to search on Handshake quickly. The other thing I want you to know is this. If you walk into the career fair, again, there's going to be 150 tables with 2 or 3 representatives at each table. There's going to be hundreds of students walking around in suits. It's going to be loud. It's going to be overwhelming. It's going to be scary. I recommend that you take a deep breath and walk up to some company that you could not care less about and practice on them. And I don't care if you know anything about them or not. Go up and ask them what they do. Practice introducing yourself. And then when you are feeling confident, then go see your top 10 list. Now let me share my, oops. Oh, hang on, stop sharing. Let me get out of this. Wait, go away. There we go. Okay. Share screen. How long have I been doing this? And I'm still like, where are all my things? Okay. So when you log into Handshake for the first time, it should look something like this. So you'll see Westchester University of Pennsylvania at the top. They have this great feed where you can post content or look at content from both folks at our school and students at other schools. Primarily to get to the career fair, click on events right here. You're going to click on career fairs at your school. And then here's the job and internship fair. So here's all the information about the event. So if I click on all employers, along this left-hand column, I can look for folks. There are 88 companies hiring interns. I can go by school year. So maybe I want to know who's hiring master's students for internships. Right there, that narrows you down, right? You can even search by major or industry. Maybe you really want the healthcare industry or local and state government. Here's the 8 companies hiring master's students for internships. And now you might not want all of these, right? I suspect the Chester County, Pennsylvania Sheriff's Office, probably not going to be of interest to most of you, but the Delaware County Department of Human Services might really, really be of interest to you. So as you go through, you can say, well, I like this one, I'm going to follow them. And right, just looking at this page alone, I can see their, if they're hiring my major, what kind of government agency they're with. I can go out to their website and I get this really brief description of who they are. If I'm really interested and I click on view details, it takes me to their company page and I get all the things. But you don't have to do that for all of them. I just want you to have a sense of what a company is so that you're not walking up to a company saying like, who are you and what do you do? If you are following companies, like I just followed this one, you can click on employers I'm following and they all show up here. But you shouldn't walk up to Beacon Hill and say, what do you do? You should know that they're a staffing and recruiting agency that might be interested in IO students like yourselves, right? So I don't think you have to have a ton of stuff memorized. I would say pick your top 10 list by just reading through, what do these companies do? What are they about? Are they likely to hire you? And kind of go from there. Hopefully that makes it a little bit easier to kind of explore, because you're never going to have time to talk to 150 organizations, right? You might have to wait in line. Again, it's going to be a crowded situation. So I think if you take the time to use the search criteria to look at the employers that are coming, you're going to be able to narrow your list a little bit better that way. For jobs, you can click on jobs. We can put in a search term like IO psychology, or you can search by your major, your location. You can use all the filters to look at, on-site or remote or hybrid. You can look at job role. You can look at industry. So there's a lot of different ways you can narrow down. But again, you're not going to look at 28,000 jobs. You're going to look at maybe 50 internships that are in your geographic area that you actually want to do because you've used the filters to narrow that down. The more things on Handshake that you bookmark, like you can bookmark jobs here, or favorite, the more Handshake learns your preferences and will start to show you more of the same. So from your homepage, it's going to give you upcoming career fairs, employer events, and different jobs that might be of interest to you. So it's going to learn your preferences, just like Netflix says, oh, you liked this movie? Here's 5 more you might like. Handshake's going to say, oh, you like this IO Psych internship? Here's 5 more you might also like. So hopefully that makes it a little bit easier to manage. Other questions, comments, concerns?
Yeah, I just want to add to that, your second year students are a really great resource. They just went through the process, they completed their internship. So that's another source that you can reach out to.
Yeah.
Just asking them about their own experiences. How did they go about finding internships? And I think that would be really useful, just getting to learn from them. And then the second thing that I posted in the chat was the WCU IO LinkedIn page. That is a group for our alumni from our program. Like Amanda mentioned about, conducting informational interviews, just getting to know what people are doing for their current role. So you might, if there are some alumni you feel like are in the field where you want to build a career, you can reach out to them through LinkedIn and then see if they can make time for an informational interview. That might be another way to collect some information about what opportunities might be available in a field that you want to be in.
And for those of you that are going to attend the fair, I will be there. I am typically around or near the employer check-in table most of the day on career fair day. Everyone who works in my office will be in a burgundy t-shirt that says TCDC on it, kind of in the look of AC/DC, if you've heard of that band. So if you have questions or concerns, you need a little motivation, come find me. I'll be by employer check-in, which is kind of by the back door of the basketball courts. I wish you all the very best of luck. Please know that you are not alone. You do not have to go through this process alone. We are here to help and support you. You can make an appointment with someone in my office if you do have questions or concerns. We are happy to critique a resume or cover letter, help you with a strategy for finding and applying to internships. If you get multiple offers, we can help you determine what's going to be the best fit for you. Our goal here is that you are successful. So we are here to help.
Right, and before we end, I just want to get your permission. Is it okay? So we recorded this session. Is it okay with you for us to post it on the IO program website? Maybe you can thumbs up on your screen so we know that we have your permission. Stefani, do you have a question?
No, that's my thumbs up. Sorry. That was the
Okay.
closest button. Sorry.
All right. Okay. So thank you so much, Amanda, and thank you all for joining us for this session. If you have any questions that come up, please feel free to reach out to me. And as Amanda said, she's available as a resource if you have questions about applying for these internships.
Thank you all so much. It was a pleasure meeting you. I will stay on for a couple minutes if anyone does want to stick around and ask questions.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks,
Right,
Amanda.
Thank you.
Thanks.
Thank you. Thank you.
you.
Thank you.
I just have one more quick question before I go, but where is the graduate and internship fair taking place? Like, what building is it taking place in?
The building is called the Student Recreation Center. It is literally the gym. It's where the gym is that is open for students. We're going to be on the second floor in the basketball and courts and racquetball courts. So if you're on the campus map, look for Student Rec Center and you will find it. There is a parking garage right next to the rec center, and it is right across from the new SECC building where the cafeteria is. And there's a parking garage there, and the new street garage is right there as well. So if you don't often come to campus, there's plenty of parking right near.
Okay, thank you.